Welcome back to the channel. I have some interesting thoughts on this new thing that Bondtech is putting out. So I'm not sure if you've heard of this thing, but Bondtech is putting out what they call the Bondtech INDX. Now, there's only so much information we know at the moment, but this seems to be targeting the multi-material systems that exist out there. So right now, your big players in that space are prusaXL and the bambulab H2D. There are others, but those are probably your two best well-known companies producing multi-material systems that this system from Bondtech is targeting. Now, please excuse the noise. I am in the workshop. We are 3D printing. There is a little bit of noise in the background, so hopefully it's not too loud through the video, but I do have some Etsy orders I gotta get out, and unfortunately time is of the essence when you're producing Etsy orders. So with that said, just please ignore the noise. Hopefully it's not too loud through the footage, and I'll try to tune it out as best I can in post-production so it's not as noticeable. That said, let's jump into this topic. So Bondtech, like I said, is producing what's called the index. The index, we think, stands for IN for induction, and then DX for direct extrusion. And these are two of the components that really make the system viable and usable with the current technology we have. So currently, on the prusaXL, for example, you have multiple tool heads. So you have the tool heads, you can purchase them individually, and they can be very expensive because each tool head has an extruder, a hot end, heat break, you name it. All the components you need for a tool head are there, and they can be expensive. So a 5 tool head prusaXL, for example, you're looking at $4,000, give or take, close to $5,000 really when you add in all the shipping and everything else. So that is a significant price hurdle to jump over if you're a maker and you're really not producing at the volume that would warrant this system necessarily just yet, but you want to jump into that space to produce certain 5, 4, 3 color or material type systems in a way that does not use an AMS. It has a lot of benefits. The AMS system, by comparison, using multiple materials can be a little bit difficult because they go through the same nozzle, and that requires then a significant amount of purging of the previous material to put the new material in, either when you're switching colors or when you are switching to a different material like TPU or something similar. So let's say you want to make a part that has a TPU flexible component mixed in with like a PLA exterior. That will require a significant amount of purging because each time you want to move a new material through the tool head, you're going to have to remove and purge out all the previous material that was in that nozzle taking up space. So it's a lot of waste. The prusaXL system has the benefit that each nozzle holds its own material, and that should reduce the amount of waste you're going to have to purge out each time you switch to a different material, because the nozzle doesn't have to be cleaned out. It can remain with that same material inside. The main issue is going to be your cost. The prusaXL system, like I said, is very expensive. bambulab has the H2D now, which is a 2 nozzle, 1 extruder type system. That solves some of the issues because if you're only switching between 2 materials or possibly 2 colors, then the purging is eliminated in that type of scenario, and it would be the same as the prusaXL. You're only going to have to purge a small amount to get the nozzle prepped and primed for that next layer, but that's it. There's no need to purge the entire hot end and the entire nozzle and everything there to put the new material in to remove the old color or the old material. So the bambulab H2D is kind of the solution to this in some ways for smaller scale, 2 tool head type requirements. The issue mainly is still on price. So the bambulab H2D in the US with tariffs, we're looking at $2,799, which is very expensive, and part of the reason why I don't recommend it anymore to people because it's just too expensive for what you get. That said, ease of use is fantastic, but that is a very high price point. So in other countries, it's much more convenient and much more adequately priced because the tariff is not an issue. So for them, I would say if you only need 2 materials or 2 colors to swap without any purge and you don't want any waste, then that's not a bad system. But it's still kind of expensive. At $2,100 US equivalent, roughly, that's still a lot of money. So Bondtech, if this system is true, if what they're proposing on this video and what people have seen at the most recent 3D printing conference is accurate, they may have a game changer on their hands. Let's jump into the video. Let's see what they're putting out on the promotional materials, and we'll see what we're dealing with. But I think what we've got so far on our hands is going to be really interesting. All right, so I pulled up my laptop. I'm going to go through the footage with you. We're going to see what Bondtech is putting out with this index system that they're talking about. Of course, the first part seems to just be, promotional material. This is the best thing ever. This is amazing. Open front-loaded tool heads. So this seems to be exactly what we're hoping it'll be. A tool head that can pick up these units individually. You have the self-adjusting dual driving technology. So this right here, I'm going to pause it there for a second. You can see how it's got this type of like drive extruding system with dual gears, and then how it kind of, I put that there, but you can see how it grips the filament and kind of holds it in place. So I feel like it's going to have some type of tension reading or tension monitoring type system to identify how much tension is needed to grab this filament. Now it knows the size of the filament, of course. So I think it's going to have some type of system to just kind of push until it reaches the 1.75 amount needed, and then it's going to start to try to feed through. And if it doesn't see any movement, it's going to then adjust tension upwards until it gets that movement it needs to only apply the needed amount of tension to each filament, so that TPU, which is softer, versus maybe PETG, which is harder, will have each their own correct amount of extrusion power applied. So let's continue there. It's extruding, fantastic, looks great. Hot endless. So this is exactly why these passive tools make so much sense. Look at the size of these things. I mean, there's 9 of them attached here. They all have their own PTFE tube. They all have their own filament going to them, and there's very little on the actual tool head itself. And then they heat it up, and this is why they can be so thin. They get heated up with no contact. So this is using only induction. You can see here it picks up the tube. It lights up to let you know that it is warming up and heating that, and then it goes and puts it back once done. You can see how it just picks up the next one, no problem at all. Nothing else needs to be picked up except that one nozzle. Let's stop it here because I want to take a look at this. First of all, that one on the right looks a little bit beat up, so I'm hoping this is just a prototype and they are actively working on improving this so that they are more resilient and stronger, because that one on the right, you can tell it's had some better days. I mean, it's been through the ringer perhaps. But that said, I'm hoping this is just prototype. This looks like it's printed in some type of maybe nylon material, these nozzles. It's possible that this is just the initial run, the prototype, and then when they get the final production going, they're going to use something else a little bit more robust, like ceramics or injection molding with higher temp materials. So I'm not sure exactly what they're using for this yet. All I imagine is that there is probably, as you can see there, the filament is feeding into it, some type of coil system with wiring that allows the induction from the tool head to activate those wires and heat them up by inducing an electrical current in them. And whatever they're going to be using has to be robust enough to withstand that heat. So I think what we're seeing here is definitely a prototype. I see that nozzle's a little bit beat up. I think as we progress and get closer to production, it's going to be better. You can also see the mounting points where these things get attached to the railing look to definitely be very much 3D printed. But the fact that they're printing with what looks to me to be a standard, maybe PETG carbon fiber type material, to me indicates that these nozzles are going to cool down very quickly because they're being mounted on 3D printed parts. And at that point, once they get released by this hot end and attached, they've got to be fairly cool to ensure they don't warp and damage this material. You'll also see some type of pin system there, like a magnet of some sort. That's probably the one holding the tool head in place for pickup when it's not being used. So let's continue on and see. So it's going to just put that back, and there it goes, reattached. It picked up another one, it looks like, and then it's printing again. So that seems to be fast, and induction heating has that benefit. You can induce a current very quickly and then let it cool down very fast. So the amount of time needed for swaps is probably very minimal. Less purging, of course, because you don't have to purge out the old material like you do with AMS color changers. Tool heads, very little to them, as you can see in the image. It looks like it's just basically a column with a filament in it. And look how many you fit on this thing. It's insane. Energy costs, yeah, a lot of less things have to be heated up. It's only heated up through induction. So that's much more efficient than your standard heating elements. This honestly, again, if they implement it well and implement it the way they're showing here, could be revolutionary. So with that said, again, the numbers they've put out so far, $250 for the tool head and $35 for each of these columns. So for $400 or $500, you can have a very robust multi-material system. And this video here, the Canuck creator that's on the screen now, he was formerly known as Nero 3D. You might know him by that name. He has put out this video where he met with them at the most recent trade show, and I just want to zoom over a little bit to see this, but here we go. So this is what we're looking at. We're looking at this tiny printer. This is a Voron with not much more than maybe 200 build size, 200 by 200, and it has 4 tool heads on it. That is, I mean, that's crazy. That is crazy. Now, there is a lot of wiring, of course, as you can see in the footage here. That is something that's going to be unavoidable. You need a PTFE tube going with the filament to each of these nozzles that gets picked up. So something to keep in mind. You're going to have a hard time avoiding that. But look at the size of this printer. It is tiny, and it's got 4 multi-material nozzle type systems on there. That is incredible, incredible. At this price point, retrofitted to older printers, like I said, an absolute game changer in what it can do in the industry. Multi-material printing, multicolor printing, very little waste, no purging needed. At this price point, added to an older system, that could be incredible. With that said, what they've put on these videos and what they've shown so far in their prototypes seems to be really, really solid. I don't foresee a situation where Bondtech drops the ball on this. They're a very well-known company. They produce very good things. They have a very proven track record of creating items that get added to 3D printers that work well. So I don't foresee this being an issue for them to implement. That said, it is new. It's a prototype. I can't tell you right now how well it works, how to implement it. Is it too cumbersome to use? I can't tell you any of that. All I can tell you is the expectations for a system like this on an older printer could be revolutionary. I really think this is going to breathe some new life into old printers that up until now printed okay, but weren't anything to write home about. With this system in place, you can go to a 5, 6, 7 multi-material system for a price point that is unheard of in the current industry. So that said, we are going to have to just watch the space and see what Bondtech puts out and get more information as it gets released. They're estimating somewhere in Q3, so we're looking at maybe summer to late fall, somewhere in there. Hopefully, we'll have more info before that to really see what we're getting, but we're going to have to wait and see what they put out. With that said, thank you for checking out the content. Thank you for checking out the channel. Keep your eyes open for what Bondtech is putting out, because I think it's going to be great. And keep checking out our content here. Please drop a like and subscribe. It helps appease the algorithm for the YouTube lords above us that are monitoring what videos to put out and what videos not to put out for people. And any likes, any subscribes really help the channel out. So if you have the time, if you don't mind, I would really, really appreciate it. It does help the channel significantly. And I'm hoping that this content is beneficial to you. We're going to keep putting out content on 3D printers, on my workspace here, on Etsy, and those sales and what that looks like. What we're printing, painted models. We've got a myriad of 3D printed related material to put out for you that I'm hoping you'll stay connected with us for and watch with us and enjoy here on the channel. So with that said, thank you for checking out this video. Keep printing, keep painting, and we'll see you on the next one. Take care.